Well, it started about 5 years ago when we had a 75th anniversary, and Pizza Marketing Quarterly, a national magazine, picked us up on that and did a story on us. And then a book's been written about the history of pizza in the United States. So a year ago they contacted us and they told us that, hey, we'd like to feature you in the book. Could we have use some photos of yours? And obviously we had to sign a release for that. And so we started digging into the history and have done a lot of research, and we found out that in terms of authentic Italian pizzerias in the United States, we're within the 20 oldest in the whole country. There's only, if we were in New York City, we would be the 5th oldest pizzeria, and the oldest one only started in 1931. This started in 1934. So Tony Pizzi and his wife Mary migrated from the Boston area, so that's how it ended up here. Other than that, there was no round pizza, no authentic pizza away from the East Coast back then, so that's how it ended up. Like you hear about Chicago pizza and all these things, none of that comes close to the age of this place, Pizzi Cafe.
So in 1934, the average person didn't know what pizza was or never had it?
No round pizza. It was square. It was a square thing, only baked by Italian families at home. That was it.
You couldn't order it out? Or...
No, nobody had pizza. You had a place down the street called the Swan. They made meatball sandwiches. That was the most popular Italian food in Conneaut, Ohio. We've actually had, we still have some residents in Conneaut, and we talk about 1934. We've got one customer that swears he sat at that bar and drank and ate in 1933, but we haven't been able to verify that. But 1934 still puts us way ahead of, you know, the rest. And then, you know, it was a long traditional, you know, authentic Italian neighborhood place. Basically just the neighborhood, you know, then maybe the city, you know, people, it caught on in maybe the 50s, it really started to catch on.
People started getting cars and
yeah, people started getting cars and they drove and they came down to the harbor area and went to this place. You know, hey, things have changed, but until the 60s, women never walked in the place. Women would go to the back door by the kitchen to take the pizza and go home with it.
Our times have changed.
Yeah. Now, I mean, fast forward, we draw from an hour. I mean, every night there's people in here from Erie, Pennsylvania, Fairview, Girard, as far as northeast Pennsylvania, as far south as Pittsburgh, Youngstown, and, you know, all the way up to Menor and what have you. I mean, this is a destination. It's a destination restaurant. So, and hey, and it's all, you know, and if you take the history, that's why. It's all because of what they started, and nothing's changed. You know, and they were around. I remember going to one in Erie, Pennsylvania when I was little. My father drugged me down there when he was going there on business or something, and you know, we had places like Little Italy and Cleveland and all these, but none of them survived. You know, so it's something to say that, you know, this place is maintained. And I think that the secret to it is nothing's changed in terms of the product. You know, nothing is, we're using the exact same recipes that started back in the 30s. And we had the same baking pans that are 80 years old that we cooked the pizza in.
Which is why you went with rounded pans. Tell that story.
Yeah, when Tony went back to a family reunion type event in the 30s, and they had pizza, you know, and they had the family recipe from the Pizzi family in Italy. And he said, you know, I'm gonna, he was building this building. Let me go back, he bought the lot. And then he went down to the lakefront and he bought 2 fish drying houses for $5 each. And he told people, they said, what are you gonna do with them? He says, I'm going to drag them up to my lot and I'm going to brick around them and build an apartment building, and I'm going to open up a little place downstairs. And they all thought he was crazy. Well, he drug them up here, and this is brick inside and outside. It's double strap brick. So he he was going to open this place and just serve drinks. He went home to Boston to visit the family. They were eating pizza out of square sheets. He says, hey, I should take this recipe back and serve pizza. So they got back here. They didn't have any round sheets. They were trying to make the first pizzas. So they used one of Mary's pie baking pans. And voila, round pizza. And it was the first anyone had ever seen of it around here or in the Midwest.
Now there's tens of thousands of places.
You know, and this is what people around here don't realize. The belt, the center of authentic Italian round pizza is Ohio, Kentucky, Michigan, and a little bit of Indiana and Illinois. I mean, you go out west, there's nothing. It's all franchises. You go down south, it's all franchises. So just a few were here. You know, like right here in town, Tony Pizzi helped his cousin open the Rainbow Cafe. A few years later down the road. I think it was early 40s maybe, I don't know exactly. I'm a businessman, I know this for the fact. I mean, I've done business all over the world and worked for the big corporations. Second generation family businesses, 80% of them fail. So that's one, okay? They died on the vine, basically, as they say. And they didn't adapt to the, you know, what was happening. You know, in the competition, you know, the big franchises now, we call them the pizza factories. They just crank them out, you know, what have you. And then the other thing is they were sold to people that didn't appreciate the roots of the business and the family-owned business. This business has never been owned by other than families, and only 3 of them. We're only the 3rd owners. The Adams family was the other one. And so everybody has just stuck to what Tony and Pizzi and Mary Pizzi started. So I've seen, you know, there's places in the area, I'm not going to, you know, mention any names, but I saw them go down the drain because someone else bought the business and they said, oh, we're going to change it and change the menu and change this and change that. And they went right down the drain and they failed. And then the other thing is a lot of places have gone, you know, we're in a neighborhood, we're kind of unique and exclusive. Some places we're in the cities, they went out of business by way of, you know, being bought out and paid money for the property and things like that.
And Tony Pizzi, he didn't come here specifically to open a bar or make pizzas. He came to work on the railroad.
Came to work on the railroad. He worked on the railroad. And he retired from the railroad, but he was a mason. He was a mason on the railroad. He built this building, and he also built homes right over here on the corner of Russell and Sandusky, where he lived. So, very unique guy. A lot of stories about him, too, and there's a lot of history in this building.
So are there people that come in here that remember him?
Yeah, they talk about how he could pick up a chair with his teeth. One of these, and a lot of other things. You know, you had some kind of mafia meetings taking place in here. A bomb went off out front once. It's in some other book. That's you know, not a big bestseller, but there is a book out there talking about the Buffalo Mafia, and they claim there were some meetings held here off-site, you know, and one time a bomb went off across the street or something. Tremendous amount of history. We've had more people get engaged here and have their first dates here and come in here and tell us the stories, and they're 60, 70, 80 years old. I was basically recruited by one of the tire companies in Akron, Ohio, and they wanted young financial. I had a finance degree, business and finance, and so they were looking for people to travel, to do auditing, production audits, all these, you know, financial mergers and acquisitions, all these types of things. Work for the CFO. Then in 1990, a job came open in Africa, in East Africa. So I told my wife Dawn, or I told my girlfriend Dawn, that I got a job in Africa and I was leaving. So kind of surprised her, and we eloped to Lake Tahoe, and 3 months later we were living in Africa. And then we came back here in 1995 just to visit, and we always thought about the food here and how much we missed it. We've traveled all over and felt that this was some of the best food we'd ever gotten, especially pizza and Italian food. So we came in one night, make a long story short, the owner wanted to sell, and I had no intentions of buying, but I said, give me 24 hours to think about it. And I asked my family if they would look after it after we went back to Africa, and they agreed. I'm still back involved in Africa again. Before I went back there, as soon as we moved back here, I went to China and worked for several years. So now I'm back in Africa because it's the fastest growing economies in the world. And I decided the best way to tell people about it is write that book, and that's what I did.
So at 92 you came back and just started running the restaurant yourself?
No. I do the marketing.
Or,
my wife runs the
okay,
restaurant.
okay, all right.